I was given an amazing letter from the Rebbe recently that kind of says it all. And the Rebbe says is, what is an artist? The Rebbe says an artist gets beyond the details to identify the core of what he's looking at. Let's say we're talking about a forest scene. So he gets beyond the details, sees the core of the forest scene. Let's say it's a spring day and it's warm and things are budding and, that whole thing. And then he's able, so he finds the core and he's able to draw that scene that will bring out the core of that scene, that the people who are going to see his painting will look at that scene in real life and not see the core, but they'll see it in his painting.
Shalom, friends. Welcome to Orange Socks, a podcast celebrating Jewish creativity. I'm your host, Yitzchak Muli, inviting you to join me in exploring the soul of Jewish expression. Shalom, friends. Welcome to the Orange Socks podcast. And we're back in the studio. It's cold. I haven't been here in a while, but it's warm because I have my dear friend, Rabbi Reuven Flamer. Rabbi Flamer, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Good Vach. It's Motzei Shabbos. And you were here celebrating your granddaughter's Kiddush. So your son had a Kiddush for your granddaughter.
Yep.
And I accosted you at the Farbrengen, and here we are.
Everything is a divine choreography.
Everything is divine choreography. I like that. It's very true.
100%.
So you've been around the block a little bit. Your white hairs are a little wider than mine.
Yeah.
Your stories are a little longer than mine.
Yeah.
And you're a natural creative.
Ooh. Okay.
And you're not on your first. It's not your first rodeo.
Depends how you look at it. Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know. Let's unpack a little bit. How'd you find your Judaism, and how did your creativity impact your Judaism? That should be enough to get you started.
Oh my gosh. I never thought of finding my Judaism as being part of my creativity. I certainly didn't think about that at the time. Unless you say seeking is creativity. I was back in Montreal, where I grew up, see this 18-year-old guy. I had been in Montreal at the time. I don't know if it's like this way anymore, but at the time there was high school till grade 11.
Okay.
2 years of what was called CJEP, which was like an intermediary step of college, and then I think 3 years after that for college. Well, in the 2 years in between high school and college, I went to an experimental program called the New School.
Okay.
And we had these little bands of people, and we were like, this is in the hippy dippy days, and I was part of a group called TELUS, which was like a touchy-feely, had to be, it was run by a guy from Stanford University and a psychologist and whatever. And then I moved up to the countryside, and I opened up with 5 other Yidden a natural food co-op in Saint Agathe du Mont in the mountains outside of Montreal. And when that,
So you're a certified hippie.
yeah,
You have
or uncertified,
you have the plaque. You have the
yeah, I have some of the tracks in the snow.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then when that fell apart, that little co-op, because we had like a band of these people thinking that they were going to create some kind of,
Utopia.
utopia, yeah, and the utopia fell apart. I hitchhiked across the country to Vancouver throughout the summer, at the end of whatever year it was. And that's where I met Chabad. I actually met my good friend Baruch Kaplan, who at the time was not a Chabadnik, and he was visiting his family from Israel that he came in from. And he had no choice but to take me to Chabad because the other place would have, forget about it. So, whatever, so that's what happened. And I was kicking and screaming all the way into Crown Heights as the Rebbe with the tractor beam just pulled me in. That's my story, in a nutshell.
In a nutshell.
Yes, we leave out some of the sordid details.
But within the Balchova movement, I suppose we could largely classify Balchovas in two ways: is those who retained their creative color, and those who blended in with the the masses of Crown Heights, if we can call it
Right.
that.
Well, now you're talking two things. You're talking about creativity
No, but
and conformity.
well, creativity versus conformity. We'll call it
Right.
that.
You could be conformity and still be creative.
You could.
And be an artist and be creative,
You
but
could.
it's usually that. You're
but
right.
You've
No, that was never going to happen for me.
right.
And it was part of my success and part of my downfall. Depends how you look at it.
Yeah.
It took me many years to accept the fact that I wasn't looking to fit in.
Right.
Yeah. So afterwards, I went to Morristown for 3 years, and then I went to Los Angeles with the Roche, and then I went to a little outlet, a satellite yeshiva in Seattle, Washington, which I don't think is there anymore. And then I was one of the first Bali Chuvas that went to 770. And then first I went to Chavei Tera 770. I was in Kailo. Then I went on shlichus to California. After I was quickly ejected from there, I went to White Plains, New York. And after a couple of years, I was ejected from there. Then I had a hiatus where I became very folded into nowhere land, and I was a mishkiach in Kashas for many years. And then I opened up my company called Natural Food Certifiers, which is both a company that does certification for only healthy kosher food, whatever healthy means, natural food, hence the name, organic for the USDA, vegan, non-GMO, and non-gluten certification. And in between, I also, on shlichus, I had a TV show, which I did for a while. And then I just came back into doing creative stuff recently.
Just recently, you came back to doing creative stuff?
Well, publicly.
Okay.
Yeah, in my mind, I was like, whatever. But
Right.
yeah, no, publicly. Yeah, I did something for a while, and then I had a studio in Crown Heights that I was trying to start up, and during the hurricane that somehow went all the way into the middle of Brooklyn and backed up the sewer system, backed up into our studio.
Oh, God.
And the guy who was the sponsor of that studio didn't have insurance. So that was the end of that.
That was like Hurricane Sandy?
Yeah.
That's a while ago.
Yeah, it was a while ago. And then, I've been writing things, whatever, to my newsletter stuff and whatever, but to people that I had connection to when I was in Westchester and what have you. But I just started I have a program called Studio 262, and we were doing, I'm writing a few scripts for TV. And unfortunately, just actually 2 days ago, the person I was writing the script around was tragically killed in Israel.
God.
So
Oh, God.
I don't know what's going to be with that, but the script will go on. Yeah, and I've done a couple of documentaries under the name of highercorners.org, if you want to look it up. And I have a podcast called streetverbrengen.net. That's been going. We just had 107th podcast where myself and a younger man named Zacharia Lipitz and I verbreng, like we're doing here. But it's more, on topics of whatever, Chassidus, Chabad, and it's kind of rough and tumble.
Nice. So the two of you plus a guest, or it's just the two of you?
No, just the two. We had one guest once, but that's it.
Just the two of you rambling?
Just the two of us. I hope it's not just rambling, but yeah.
I understand. Okay, but that's that's good. That's good. There's a lot there.
So that's that. Now you have my whole picture.
What I find, what's the right adjective? What I find what I find comforting to myself,
Okay.
in a somewhat selfish way, is to see that you're still at it, in spite of the rough and tumble, in spite of the ejecting here and the ejecting there, and that you're Baltrova. You came with a certain amount of creative energy, I'll call it that, and you still have that creative energy that hasn't been beaten out of you, that hasn't
God forbid.
circumstance. Yeah, yeah, exactly. But that's not the case for everybody. Not everyone has been able
Agreed.
to.
Every
to,
child is creative.
yeah, every
Question
child.
is what happens when they grow up.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, and you haven't grown up, so it's a good sign. You and I both.
Yeah.
You and I both.
Well, there's a certain joie de vivre you have to keep going, you know?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But when you see a big picture, and you see what we're here for, and you see these are the tools that you need to move forward.
Yeah. Look at the Rebbe. You know, I hang out in a synagogue it's called Or Shlomo, so they're like named after Shlomo Karlebach. So you know what kind of people are going there.
Right.
And a lot of them are ex, or whatever you want to call them, Satmar, New Square kind of people.
Right.
And they they're looking for that creative spark, right? That's what they're looking for.
Right.
And they think, in their mind, that Chabad doesn't have that creative spark. Because they think Chabad is like intellectual dissertations or something.
Right.
And I think a lot of Chassidim think that, or whatever we call them.
Well, in a way, Chabad, as opposed to other forms of Chassidim, are supposed to be intellectual. The whole Chabad Chachma
No,
B'das.
I think that's a misunderstanding.
Okay.
You know, I was reading a book by Sidney Lumet, if I got the right name. Sometimes I play around with names by mistake. But Sidney Lumet was a director, producer in Hollywood. And he has a book that he wrote. He's passed away, but he has a book that he wrote about the art of producing. And he said something that was very interesting. He's warning the director how many times you're going to have to fly by the seat of your pants because things change. Like, for example, he gives an example. They shoot in Central Park. They go to eat lunch. Now it starts snowing.
Right.
Now, what are you going to do? The first scene didn't have the snow, and now you have snow there. So what do you do? That's the example he gives. But in any case, and he says there's a lot of improvising when you have a problem.
Right.
So he says you would think that the actors that stick to the script the best will have the most difficult time improvising.
Okay.
And he says it's the opposite. Why? He says because if you know your script and because you know the details of the script and it's embedded in you because you know them off by heart, etc., and you're really good at it, then you get the whole essence. So now, if you need to improvise the script, you can pivot. So the whole essence of Chassidus is that. Details will bring you to the essence that's higher than the details that you're learning. But if you're just there to accrue information, then you're right. Then it's just intellectual.
Right.
So I think it's the other way around. And the Mittler Rebbe is very big in that. And that ideas of details bring you to the beyond details.
That's a struggle that I've been having, the details versus beyond details. It's an ongoing, because I kind of live in this fairy tale world of beyond details without the details, and you can't get to beyond details without the details themselves. And sometimes I forget to pay credence to all the details that get me to where I want to be. And I just want to be there. I have, you know, I can get drunk on an idea. I can get so excited by an idea that I won't
I know
actually
that's it.
do anything all day
Right.
long. I'll just, you know, and then the next day I'll have this idea, but to get there is so many details, and I'm like already there, and it's like I just whatever it takes to get me there, just get me there already, rather than really focusing on all the steps and all the details and all the nuances that need to take place, that need to come into play in order for the big picture to emerge. And I get frustrated sometimes when the big picture doesn't emerge fast enough because I'm less focused on the details. I'm more focused on the big picture, on that.
Right, but big pictures are like clouds in the sky. They come and they go, like you're saying. You have to, yeah, but I think we're talking about two different things a little bit. I like to think like this. In the Hagdama of Tanya, in the introduction of Tanya, the Alter Rebbe is addressing people's complaint. How could you take the personal experience of meeting the Rebbe himself and replace that with a book?
Right.
Okay, great question. I'm not so quite sure that the answer was ever answered quite for everybody's happiness, and he starts off the Hagdama and he says, I'm calling out to Roitfei Tzedek Umavakshe Hashem, the ones who are chasing righteousness and looking for God. It may be the other way around, I don't remember. It's a pasuk from Yeshaya, from Isaiah. And I thought to myself, why does he start with that? And it turns out that one of the versions of the manuscript of Tanya doesn't have it in there. So it was specifically put in there. We see that it was like very specific because it's missing in the first edition of the script, of the manuscript. And I think the answer is, if you're not looking for beyond the details, as you call it, learning Tanya, learning Chassidus, and maybe even being a Lubavitcher Chassid in general is like eating paper. It's like eating straw. You have to have the objective of Reit Veit Tzedek Umavakshe Hashem. You have to be looking for God. Now learn.
Right.
And that's how you're going to find. But if you take God out of the picture, and I know it sounds like most people would say, I don't, but if that's not what you're chasing, then the details are boring and they get you nowhere, in my opinion. I mean, I don't say don't learn, but I'm just saying you're missing the big picture.
Right.
So I'm in the middle of a film documentary, and I was interviewing a professor from a university, and he's a neurologist, and he goes, in the beginning, when I was a student, the hand was a mystery. And he goes like this. And he goes, but now I know every sinew, I know every, what do we call it, a tendon, I know the skin, I know everything of the hand. Now it's not a mystery. And I thought to myself, we say the opposite. The more you're going to know about the hand, the more you're going to see mystery.
Right.
Okay, but if it's data, then he's right.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, so maybe he thinks he's mastered it all. He thinks that there's nothing else.
But why doesn't he see the mystery behind how that all happens? Like, why does that work that way?
Right.
He just knows it works that way, but doesn't know why. He doesn't. So whatever. So yeah, I understand. You talk about creativity. Do you see davening as creative?
I'll try.
So I don't know if most people see davening as creative.
Right.
And it is. Is learning creative?
Yes. Can be. Should be.
It should be.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So what drew you to film? What was the motivation? What was the driving force that got you into this?
That's a good question. I don't know if I know the answer. Well, before I became Flamer, I was president of B'nai B'rith Youth Organization of the Eastern Seaboard, blah, blah, blah. And one convention was in a play. when I was maybe 15 or 16. As a matter of fact, the director of that play became the head guy of the Canadian, I don't even know what they call it, the Canadian Dramatic Society or something from the government, like the.
Right.
So he became very
He
famous.
stayed a theater kid.
What?
He stayed a theater kid.
Yeah. So I definitely, and when I was a kid, I was also in theater with my mom, in the kind of like the synagogue theater thing. So I don't know. I just kind of, it wasn't like I had this driving thing, I want to be in film or something. I could tell you what I get out of it now that I'm in it. I think it's more of creativity. I'm not a musician. I don't know how to play anything, which I regret. I'm not an artist where I can draw like you. So I don't have that. So maybe I'm going to the place where I can, but I was given an amazing letter from the Rebbe recently that kind of says it all. And the Rebbe says is, what is an artist? The Rebbe says an artist gets beyond the details to identify the core of what he's looking at. Let's say we're talking about a forest scene. So he gets beyond the details, sees the core of the forest scene. Let's say it's a spring day and it's warm and things are budding and, that whole thing. And then so he finds the core and he's able to draw that scene that will bring out the core of that scene, that the people who are going to see his painting will look at that scene in real life and not see the core, but they'll see it in his painting. And that's to me is like shlichus when you think about it. Because shlichus is, I'm going to meet someone and bring out their spark of godliness that they don't see. Right. So I'm going to paint it for them, hopefully, if I'm doing my job well. And it's the same thing as for me too, for myself.
Right.
So I guess, I like to talk. So I used to have the talk show, so I like to talk. So that helps. And the film fascinates me because you create, when you look at a film, I never analyzed movies before till now.
Right.
And it's like there's a scene and there's, let's say, a breakfast table and there's 5 chairs and there's 3 plates and there's this kind of refrigerator and there's the clothes that the people are wearing. All of that is scripted. You're creating everything from scratch and choosing. So one thing that is like, it's a very powerful feeling. That's number one, in a sense, because you're creating a world of reality just out of nothing. And I think that, as you know, I think film today, everything today is visual, right?
Right.
In our day, radio, or I don't know how old you are, but in my day, radio was, you listen to radio in the car. I haven't listened to the radio in the car, and I can't even remember how long. Right? Maybe 20 years. But there's music, and there's this, and there's podcasts, and so on. So, but everything is, social media is visual. That's messianic, because Mashiach is Rao Kol Baso Yachdav. Everyone will seek godliness. Now, obviously, not everybody is looking at godly things when they're looking at their visuals in the media, but that's the medium today, is visual. So I think one of the reasons why I'm pulled towards film is the impact of the value of that. Even though it's interesting and a little maybe frustrating and ironic that I have a hard time visualizing in my head, which is a big problem if you're going to be writing a script in a movie. But
right.
Yeah, that's what it does for me, at least.
So what drew you in? Is it there was a particular story you were trying to tell? Is there a particular message you were trying to communicate, and you realized that film was the best medium to do that?
I don't know if it was conscious decision. I can't say that it was. It was kind of just naturally flowed there. What I'm working on, because I'm working on 2 things. One is a coordination of the 2 things that I'm most involved in which is healthy food and spiritual things. I'm writing a script around that. But the other two films that I come out with, and now we're doing a third one, it's called Higher Corners, is based on the idea that explains to Chassidus that what's a corner of a room, an actual corner.
Right.
Which wall is it part of?
Neither. So
Neither.
It's a,
right. So it's like
concept.
It's like Bena Shmashois is like dawn or
Dusk,
or
right.
dusk. Okay. So Higher Corners is what's the corner that bridges science and Chassidus? The Rebbe is very big on science is not a contradiction to Torah. Torah is not a okay. Obviously, there's certain things people believe in, but that is a contradiction. But science itself, you just the way I understand it, you're seeing what's out there.
Right.
Okay, you want to start extrapolating. That's the whole of the story. So what we're working on is I have like this next film that I'm doing is three neurologists, and they're talking about the brain, and then I work with Rabbi Pinson from I don't know if you know from Muncie. So, and he'll speak about the Chassidic, Kabbalistic side of whatever the discussion is with the scientists. So that we interview. So it's, I guess, what moves me is how do you find. Like I had the craziest situation that came up. As part of this thing that I'm working on, I went into Washington Square Park and I had a sign standing up, a banner said, "Do you have soul? Do you have a soul?" Or something like, "You got a soul," with a question mark. And I interviewed passerbys. One of the passerbys, I had a great interview with him. And after each good interview, I gave them actually a book, Chicken Soup for the Soul. Okay. He shakes my hand. Then he gives me his name. I said, "That's a strange name." He says, "Look me up on YouTube." Literally 2 days later, as I'm looking at the video, this guy was in the story with North Miami, or wherever it was, Miami Beach, when guys went into some kind of discotheque or some kind of place screaming Heil Hitler. He was one of them. He was a famous anti-Semite. I don't want to mention his name. And he was now with him. Sitting,
one of the perpetrators.
Yeah, one of the perpetrators.
Oh, yeah.
And I said, my gosh, what's the chances of me interviewing this guy in Washington Park who's very nice to me, and now he's screaming out Heil Hitler 2 days later, and he's an influencer, right? So maybe ironically, when you said, I didn't lose my creative spark when I became religious. It's pretty creative to make a dir b'tachtonim, isn't it?
It can be, if you look at it that way.
How could it not be?
It could be very rote. It could be very.
Then it's not a dira.
Then you're laying bricks. You're just a bricklayer.
Then you're not. It's not. Then it's not a dira.
It can still
it's
be
a tachtonim, but it's not a dira.
It can be. It absolutely can.
How? Dira b'tachtonim, in my understanding, means who I am as a simple human being in a body brings God into my life.
Right.
Now, if I'm doing it by rote, then I don't have God in my life. I have rote in my life, but I don't have God in my life. How could you not be energized by God? How could you not be besimcha with God? So now, obviously, we wax and we wane. I'm not saying that
Right.
I'm floating all the time or whatever, but I think to get it done is creative. Who made the Mishkan? Betzalel.
The Mishkan is extremely.
Betzalel was an artist.
Extremely creative.
Okay.
But not everyone. Unfortunately,
Yeah.
not everyone defines themselves as creative. Religious or not. I mean, take religion out of it. There's a lot of people who just live
Agreed.
their life by rote. So when they're given a task of raising a family, they're still living their life by rote. When they're given the task of whatever it is, they're living their life by rote.
So
when it comes to dir b'tachtonim, to creating a dwelling place for God in this world, they're doing it in the same rote fashion that they're doing everything else. Not everyone is blessed to feel their creativity. I believe everyone has creativity,
Okay.
but not everyone is blessed to be able to express it, to find it. And
I'm not
express
talking
it.
about creativity that you're an artist, a filmmaker.
No,
I'm talking about, like you said, you're raising your family. That's creativity.
That should be creativity. Yes. Yeah.
I think the only reason why people don't feel that way is because, like you said, they don't identify themselves as
Right.
being creative. It all comes down to, are you, again, roid feit tzedek umavakshe Hashem? What's your identity? You're here to conform? Is that what we're here for? Is that what the Rebbe asked for? You know, we just came from Yud Shvat. It's hard work. That was the Rebbe's call. This is going to be hard work. I'm not going to do it for you. Is it creative to go to a tzaddik and expect a blessing?
I don't know. Is it?
I don't think so. What's the creativity? It's creative to create a business. It's not creative to buy a lottery ticket and win. Maybe geschmack, but
Right.
where's the creativity? So you're right. Maybe most people don't see themselves as quote unquote creatives, but why not?
So how does a quote unquote non-creative find their creativity, discover their creativity, open up their creativity?
I mean, that's a big question for lots of people, millions of people, but I think the first step could be, obviously you have to want to, even if you don't even know what it means, and make it your objective. I think what stops people from being creative is the element of risk. What's going to happen on the other side of my creative moment? You know, what is it going to mean for all the years till now, for example? You know, person grows up and he has a job or she has a job and they spend 20 years in their job and now they want to go sell their house, get on a motorcycle and go across America. That's pretty creative in a sense.
Yeah, if you're willing to do, yeah.
But
if
there's
you have,
big, but there's
if
a
you're
big
willing
risk.
to have that first thought, that's
But there's a big the first thoughts we all have.
not everyone. Not everyone.
I
has
think
those big
everybody
thoughts.
has in their heart.
Not
a
everyone
dream.
has those big thoughts.
It doesn't have to be big.
To travel cross country on a motorcycle.
No, that's big.
That's big.
Yeah, fine.
To
It doesn't have to be earth-shattering.
to
Let's talk.
truly entertain
Let's
that
talk
thought.
about us.
Okay.
To sit down tomorrow morning before you daven and say, I am going to quiet my mind for 1 minute, and I'm going to think over one line of Chassidus that pops up in my head, whatever it was, for 5 minutes, is like the guy who gets on his motorcycle after he sold his house and goes across America. If you haven't been doing it.
I don't think it's that earth-shattering, but yes, I think we should.
You know what? For that guy, it could be earth-shattering.
No, for us to spend 5 minutes
Yeah,
thinking.
it could be earth-shattering for the guy. Obviously, it's more dramatic, the other example, but I'm saying it's creative.
Right.
It's taking a risk. Maybe I won't be successful. Maybe I'll find out there is a God that I've been ignoring. Or maybe I'll find out I can't find him yet. It's also a risk. If I'm really looking, if I don't look, then there's no big chiddush that I don't find them, so everything is good status quo, you know? I had, maybe this is like the key to creativity. I got also in that letter that I was granted from the Rebbe to see was an amazing, amazing line. There's a very well-known Pisgums statement or whatever that says, "Pischuli kechudesh machat," open for me like the size of the pin, point of a pin,
Of a needle.
Ve'eftich lecha psicha shalaylam. Open up for you like an ulam, the opening of an arena or ulam could refer in the Beis Hamikdash. That's this line, which happens to be a little bit of a change what the Medrash says, but it's a similar idea. So most people see it to mean put a little effort and Hashem will make great success, right? A little pinpoint and the Eibush is going to make an opening that's going to surprise you. That's the common translation of that idea that's being conveyed. The Rebbe in this letter says different. And he says, put a little effort as much as you feel you have the koiches for. Right? He's in the letter, he's addressing that a person is never asked to do beyond what he's capable of doing. So do a little bit, right? And Hashem will grant you that you will detect more ability in yourself than you never felt that you had before. The ulam, the opening is in you,
right? Not
in the successful, somehow magical unfolding event. That's powerful.
That's very powerful.
Yeah. And that's, to me, that was like encapsulating the difference between creative, if you want to call it for our discussion, creative Chassidus versus not creative Chassidus. Because creative Chassidus is all about you and God in the here and now. And that statement really says it, right? Open up a little bit, and you yourself will be granted to find powers and capabilities you never dreamt you had. Now, God is doing that with you, right? Whether you feel that or not. But you will feel that experience. That experience will blossom. That's like incredible. That's, when you sit down, I don't know, you tell me, when you have a canvas in front of you, you know what you're going to paint in advance?
Often, yes. I'm premeditated in that sense. Yes.
Okay, and then it comes out the way you...
No, often it will not come out the way I have in mind.
Right.
But before I sit down, I will have a goal in mind.
Yeah.
And we'll...
It's not like the empty canvas talks to you and tells you, paint me.
No.
Right.
But it will evolve. I've had paintings that have gone in a completely different direction and are way more beautiful and impactful than I had ever imagined.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So that's what this is saying. Put out a little effort.
Start.
Put a little objective. And I think that's what's the difference. I think a lot, as you started off our conversation, I think a lot of Baal Teshuvas did come somewhat excited, so to speak, and then became bored. You didn't say bored, but they became bored out of rote.
No,
because
this idea of conformity, this idea of the need
whatever the reason
was,
because I think there's risk. Everybody wants to be accepted. And also the risk could be, how do I know I'm going to stay for myself in conformity? Right? So what am I going to find on the other side of the road if I'm being creative? That's why when you go in front of this, I'm asking you, when you go in front of a canvas, you're open. You're starting off with something, but you're open to the change that will blossom.
Right.
Otherwise, what are you doing?
Right. It's interesting, but I don't ever think that it will change me. I'm very confident in who I am, that it won't change who I am. The creative process is not going to change me and my values and my outlook on life.
Why are you? I don't understand why you're even saying that. What's the assumption?
No, well, you're saying that the creativity.
I'm talking religious creativity.
Right.
One of the phenomenons that came across historically in the last few years was this. I always refer to is the call of the shofar phenomenon.
Okay.
Right? Or this, now my second film that we did was on psychedelics, called Psychedelic Chassidim.
Okay.
Okay. Chassidim taking ayahuasca. Chassidim, I don't know what the definition of Chassid. Religious people taking ayahuasca, going to Costa Rica for weekends and week-long journeys and so on and so forth. Like, what's that all about? What's going on over there?
Okay.
That it's happening. So there's a lot of fear, right, about it. rightly so. And what happens a lot of times is the person comes back saying, I have been unhappy. I've been imprisoned in my own religious life, so I'm now different. So the kapata goes off, or the black hat goes off, or whatever, right? And get that little sense of self and freedom. When you go, let's go use the example. When you're drawing on your canvas or painting, whatever you do, are you limited by the canvas, or does the canvas allow you to find find places in yourself that you're even surprised when you finish the painting?
No, hopefully.
But so are you going to say that changed you?
No.
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 Okay. So I think people make, with this ayahuasca thing and all that kind of stuff, they're making a mistake in what they think is the creative process spiritually. The way, I'm not an artist like you are, but the canvas allows me to express myself.
Right.
And things come out in the expression that maybe surprise me, but it's me. I'm not losing myself.
Right.
Like you said, I'm not changing myself.
Right.
It's not making me,
Right.
but it's expanding you, in the sense of expression, at least.
Right.
Right. Why shouldn't the mitzvah do that?
A mitzvah
Right.
should do that.
And if we don't understand it that way, then we think ayahuasca does it. Because ayahuasca is making me find myself. I hate that expression.
Right.
Find myself. But this is it's a whole other rabbit hole.
There's a whole other rabbit hole that I'm curious about, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Sorry for me for
Meander
meandering.
away. No, I see creativity. I see creativity as a godly gift,
Of course.
and I see creativity as an extension of my divine service. There
Okay.
are others who, I've been at this for a little while, but there are other creatives who are, on their journey, and they meander through their religiosity, we'll call it that. And it's their creativity takes them to other places. And potentially without being creative, they would be a little bit more grounded in their religiosity. But because of their creativity and because of their creative lifestyle, they've gone off on a religious journey that leads them away from Judaism. I see creativity as a tool to connect to God, not as a tool for self-expression.
Well,
To the
depends how you look at it. The Alter Rebbe in Tanya says, let me ask you this. Does he say the body is your enemy?
I don't think so.
No. He says the body is part of ground.
Right.
You have a godly soul, you have an animal soul.
Right.
Both want to express themselves in the body. Your body is your canvas.
Right.
Okay, which one are you going to express? Which side of you are you going to express? They're both you.
Right.
So to go and express yourself by doing the opposite of, let's say, from a Jewish perspective, Torah and mitzvah, so then obviously you're choosing one side and not the other side.
Right.
I think, that's also another rabbit hole, how we started off saying every child is creative.
Right.
The question is, how do we beat it out of them? Like one of my pet peeves, I do subbing sometimes, particularly in a high school, in girls' high school, but in other places I've been. Like there's a new phenomenon in Chabad. I think it's new, and it never was in my day, and that is a test on chapter 1 of Tanya, and there'll be like 5 or 6 or 10 questions, and you have to answer them. I mean, dude, I was in high school, in Waker High School in Côte Saint Luc. and I had those kind of tests, but it wasn't about the subject of Tanya.
Right.
That's what you come down to, is you want to know whether they learned the data.
Right. Right.
This is insane.
Yep. No, and then when you fail,
Yeah, and then
Tanya.
you fail. Right.
then what does it say about you?
When you fail what?
When you fail Tanya,
Yeah.
when you fail the scholastic subject of Tanya.
I'll say even better. What does it say about you when you succeed?
No, when you succeed, you feel good about yourself, and
Okay, but what is
you feel an affinity towards it?
No,
It's
you feel academically affinity towards it.
okay, but you hopefully you have
You
a
just
healthy
squash
relationship to it.
You just squash the creativity.
You're saying that when you succeed, that's the problem.
It's
I'm
even
saying
worse.
When you fail, it's the problem.
It's both, but it's even ironically when you succeed.
Right. So yeah, I mastered it.
Yeah, I'm a master because I was able to get 9 out of 10 questions, and I got a gold star. And Mommy and Daddy put my test of Tanya up on the fridge.
I
mean,
say
this is what we're teaching our kids.
There's a great line that I heard years ago, and it stuck with me at Afar is that children of the revolution don't realize there ever was a revolution. So when you're getting a test in Tanya is a book of revolution. Chassidus is a revolution. But when you're getting a test,
It was. Societally wise. Now the question is, it will be for you individually.
Right. So, but when you're a child of the revolution, when you're just getting tested on the details of the revolution, of which you are second generation revolutionary,
Yeah.
it becomes institutionalized. It becomes rote. It becomes
Agreed.
And then you don't realize the power of the revolution itself. You don't realize, what was before, what is now, and how special it is that what you have. And it's just another subject. There's math, there's science,
Right.
and there's revolution.
Right.
It's a problem.
Huge problem. It's paradoxically the opposite of what it's trying to convey.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of the people I not follow, but I get his thing every Wednesday, but I read his books, is Stephen Pressfield. Do you know Stephen Pressfield?
Tzaddik.
The War of Art?
Yes.
I don't know if he's a tzaddik.
I-
So he likes to talk about the muse,
Yes.
not News, but Muse. What are muse? Do you know what muse is?
No, that part of it I don't
Okay.
quite get.
The muse is a Greek, if I got it right, it's a
Right, the
Greek
Greek mythological
idea that creativity comes from like the angels or from some kind of spiritual forces that, is bordering already on the line of like astrological muzzle and stuff like that. Right?
Right.
And I like what he writes in general, but this thing, I found it very strange. I get it. He talks about, what's creativity? Creativity comes from outside of your box.
Right.
Creativity, by definition, is you're going outside of your box. Where does it come from? Where does Chassidus say creativity comes from? It doesn't say the word creativity.
It does.
Yeah, where?
Chachma.
Oh, okay. Where does Chachma come from?
Chachma is it's. I heard from Rabbi Yossi Patil learning Tanya, and it blew my mind. But it's the koyach ma. It's the capacity to say what to strive, to try really hard to understand something, or whatever creative block you're working against, and then you hit a brick wall. You hit your And
the thought in the shower.
You put in your effort, and then you have the capacity to say, "Ma, I don't know."
That's what he says. The definition.
That's part one. Part one is the ability to say "ma," to have the bittul, to have the capacity to realize there's a wisdom out there. I know there's an answer. I just don't know what that is, and I don't know what it is. I'm accepting that I don't know.
Okay.
That's part one. Part two is, he says, it's the Chai Yechida. It's your subconscious. It's your soul, your subconscious soul talking to your conscious soul.
Okay.
That's where it comes from.
Okay. Good. You described the process. Now, the real truth is what you're saying, is it comes from within me.
Yes.
But it's just that it's like I'm in the ocean, standing in the sand on the bottom of the ocean, and and the water's still here, and I'm looking, right? And that's what I see. And now there's a whole world below that I don't see, right? And if I go under the water, I'll see there. Okay, right. Except it's the other way around because we want to go higher, not lower. Okay. So it's not muse, it's not angels, it's actually yourself.
Yes.
And I like to say this is why you wear a yarmulke. It's not only God, so to speak, is over you. You have higher levels of your own self, which is connected to God. The same, right. They're together, right?
Right.
So, and that's creativity. Why does he have to say angels and spirits and all this kind of stuff? No. And what does Chassidus speak about? What you just said. Chachma, l'mayla mina chachma, yechida, ratzoid. Why don't we understand it personally? Because we're basically teaching it to pass the test. We are destroying our own a sense of self and creativity.
All right. And that's why we're here.
Yeah.
We're here on the Orange Socks podcast to upend that and to change that.
Orange socks. I get a picture of, like, I don't know, a cat with little socks, but anyways.
No, it's a painting of mine. A whole lot of rabbis and one guy wearing orange socks. And that's
beautiful.
What it's about.
Is that you?
That's it. Yeah.
All right.
It's my self-portrait.
The man with the orange socks.
It's to find yourself in your Judaism.
In your orange socks.
Find yourself in your orange socks. Find your own. Don't be a carbon copy of everyone else.
Okay.
Be
That's
yourself.
Dangerous for a lot of rabbis to hear that.
Be yourself.
Okay.
Find your own relationship to God.
I saw by the Rebbe, he says in a mimer, when it's a famous thing, it says, everyone is chayav loimer b'shvili nivra ha'olam, for my sake. For me, the world was created. And the Rebbe says, what's pshat? The individualness that I have was why the world was created. Not the world was created for me.
Right.
Creation is all about your individuality and working with it to make a dir b'tachtonim, right? Yeah.
There we go. There we go.
Well, this was fun.
All right, Rabbi Flamer, thank you.
You're welcome.
So I got two closing questions.
Two closing questions. Uh-oh.
Number one is, who are three creatives you think the audience should know in all your travels and your journeys? Three Jewish creatives, preferably.
Jewish?
Preferably.
I don't, well, I'm very fond of the musician Moshe Feiglin from Israel.
Sure.
His music to me is very deep.
He was a camper of mine.
He was a camper of yours?
In a different life, yeah.
Okay.
We both grew up in Melbourne, Australia.
Oh, I didn't realize you're from Melbourne. So I'm not a fan of Jewish, no offense, but of Jewish music. I'm not a fan of I don't know of anything else. I know you. That's about it. I know from about an artists. Writing, I don't know. So I can't. If you say like Torah Jewish, I don't have anyone more than Moshe. But I mentioned Steve Pressfield. But in terms of just working past your blocks of creativity, to me, what opened me up to like poetry and what does it mean to stir someone's soul was Leonard Cohen.
He's a good Jewish poet.
I can still remember when I was 13, 14 years old, running away, so to speak, from my house, going to my brother's house while he was in college and listening to Leonard Cohen albums all by myself all day long. So I go back a while with him. I actually saw him in Toronto a year or two before he passed away. And it was very special. So they have to be Jewish?
That works. That works.
Okay, those are the two.
There you go.
Yeah.
Okay, and my last question is, what's your advice for young creatives for them to find their orange socks?
My advice, I think this will be a little bit prejudicial, maybe. Don't be creative to rebel. Be creative because it's who you are. That's number one. There's a lot of rebellious creativity, and I don't think that's really creativity. I mean, it's not pure, whatever. It's not the highest form of creativity. And of course, I'm sure everyone would say this, is don't listen to the peanut gallery because they're going to tell you to shut down. Um, I don't think you're an artist. You know, the starving artist kind of. Um, what's the word I'm looking for? Stereotype. You don't become an artist to become rich, to make money. Like a person goes to school, I'm going to become a lawyer, right? So people are going to tell you if you really feel like you want to just, and you can create and still be a lawyer, right? Or whatever. But it's got to come from inside. I just interviewed an amazing person last week for the piece that I'm doing, and I said, "Why'd you become a psychiatrist?" And he says to me, "Why is a plant a plant?" That was his answer. So he explained it, but yeah, it has to come from here.
Yeah.
Yeah, and if it doesn't come from your heart, then something is amiss, and you got to recalibrate. Does that answer?
That's it.
Okay.
Beautiful. Rabbi, Ashikar,
Rabbi?
thank you.